Ward Churchill, he's been fired, but he certainly has not been ostracized. If anything, it seems to make him maybe more popular with his, I can't even call them fringe anymore, fringe groups, because there's still enough professors, there's still enough groups, there's a lot of student groups that use student money, student fees to bring him in on paid speaking engagements. He does this all throughout North America, Canada included, and still doing that, many of them, and commanding as much as $5,000 for engagement. Not only that, but he's able to wield enough clout to say nobody in the audience is allowed to record me while I record everybody else for possibly commercial endeavors. What is it that a person like a Ward Churchill can defy all these scholarly standards and yet still be given a certain amount of credibility and adoration by not just enough student groups, but also enough scholars in other areas? There's a lot of scholars that dismiss him, but there's also enough scholars that have enough clout to say, we're going to pay to have him come here and speak to our university.
I think you've got several issues at play here. Obviously, whether it's Ward Churchill or whether it's Ann Coulter, individuals have every right to come to college campuses and to provide their perspective in the public forum. And that is a citizen's right, and it is a professor's right. Where the rubber hits the road is not what's said in the public forum, but in fact what is done in the college classroom. And I think that's the issue that concerns the American Council of Trustees and Alumni, that we have to make certain that our classrooms are used for educating, not indoctrinating, that students are introduced to multiple perspectives on the various issues of the day, that they are not given a conclusion, but in fact taught how to think for themselves. And I think that's really the issue here, not what people say on their own time, but what in fact faculty do in the classroom. And are they abiding by their academic responsibilities as well as exercising their academic freedom? Too often they've exercised academic freedom and have neglected their responsibilities to teach students in a fair and open way.
I guess what I'm getting at is, despite all these charges, and despite him being removed because of these charges of academic misconduct, there are enough people in scholarly position to say, oh, we don't care about it, you're welcome here. Is that a message that's being sent to a lot of students, that I can get away with that? These standards don't have to apply because, hey, I can defy this, I can be popular, I don't have to apply the standards that ACTA might be saying, because look how well rewarded I could be.
Well, having a Ward Churchill or having a controversial speaker on campus gives an institution a wonderful opportunity to engage in the discussion of academic standards, extremism, political perspectives, what happens in the classroom. Too often universities don't take this opportunity to have a Ward Churchill and to have someone who perhaps has a different perspective. And this is again one of the issues that the American Council of Trustees and Alumni is consistently concerned about, that as we look at our college and university campuses, we should examine who comes to speak on campus. Our students provided multiple perspectives in terms of these public speakers. Again, this is something that trustees can ask their presidents to assess, so that when students go on campus to hear speakers, they don't only hear a Ward Churchill, who's obviously been attacked on many grounds, but that they also hear other perspectives in terms of the public forum, in terms of controversial issues of the day. Those who may not agree with Ward Churchill and some of his perspectives on Indian rights. Wouldn't it be better for the students to have this robust exchange of ideas, which I think in its finest essence is a quality liberal arts education? And too often we find a receptivity to certain perspectives, to a certain ideological perspective, and a lack of receptivity to providing a counterbalancing perspective or differing viewpoints. And that's what's missing, and that's what needs to be improved.
And does that seem to be what Ward Churchill also symbolizes, is why allow an opposing viewpoint if we've already decided that this viewpoint is the way to go for social justice, and anything opposite is counter-revolutionary? Just like Ward Churchill himself has said, while he's demanded free speech rights, that Columbus Day should be outlawed and those who celebrate it should be arrested, or that free speech should not apply to people who we would consider to be Nazis in their thinking, which is a term that's very, very often put forward to those who use for detractors. And isn't also part of the battle when so many students are influenced enough by this that they'll rush a stage when a speaker, such as in Columbia University of the Minutemen, before they're even about to speak. So even the students themselves to decide this is what we learn about academic freedom is now we can rush the stage and not allow other people.
I think it's a very good point that institutions have the obligation and opportunity to talk about discourse in a civil society, civil discourse in a democratic republic. And too often our students are I think, led to believe that we want to diss somebody whose opinions that we dislike, rather than trying to shut down speakers. The ability to deal with bad ideas or ideas that we disagree with, if you will, is to have more speech and to have more debate and differing perspectives. And I think there have been too many cases where when we find people with whom we disagree, rather than heckling them, shutting them down, or even accepting them and not accepting others, that we need to encourage this robust exchange of ideas that allows us to find what is good and what is the better perspective.
So then my question is, do you see a relation between all these classes of questionable scholarship with fostering the conflict over the debate and exchange, open exchange of ideas in a civil and rational forum? Do you think from what you're showing in the report, How Many Ward Churchills, that it's not just a matter of what's in the class curriculum, but that what it also promotes is antithetical to the purpose of the university, even along the lines of outside the classroom, but within the university, the open debate and discussion of ideas, including with speakers?
In our survey of courses, we clearly found on the face of the descriptions themselves, courses that were dedicated to political advocacy, classes in activism, sensitivity training. These are politicized classes that are not focused on imparting a wide range of perspectives and giving students the ability to think for themselves. Clearly that is contrary to our perspective of liberal education, the perspective that Thomas Jefferson talked about, where he said that we want to have the ability to follow truth wherever it may lead. And I think that wide open search for the truth has too often been lost, as we found in many of these courses, where tendentiousness and a politicized perspective pushes out the ability to follow truth wherever it may lead.